TIFU by making a joke and losing the right to see my daughter. This just happened last week. I got home from working out of town Thursday night and my wife warns me that there is a problem with my 7-year-old daughter. Beth comes in, and I can see that she has a few bug bites on her face and one of her eyelids is a little droopy. She feels fine though. I'm off work the next day and my wife is going to the office. I wake Beth up for breakfast and her eye is now much worse. It is more than half closed and a little red. She still feels fine. As soon as the doctor opens, I call them and they tell us to come in. We get there and I go to check in. The receptionist that I have never seen looks at my daughter and says, "Oh my goodness, what happened?" So I respond as a joke, "She got out of line." I know. It's horrible. I'm sorry. I have a weird sense of humor and I'm a bit socially awkward. Anyway, we all smile and giggle before we head to the waiting area. Soon we are called in. The checkup goes as expected. It's a reaction to the bug bites, and he tells me to use some over-the-counter Zyrtec or Benadryl. Then there is a knock on the door and the doctor steps out. He comes back in a few minutes later and says that the police would like to talk to me. The doctor is angry. We all head to the doctor's office to talk. There is a policeman and a policewoman. The policewoman starts making small talk with my daughter and asks if she wants to go in the other room and read a book. My daughter has an irrational fear of the police from when her older brother would threaten to call them whenever she went in his room. So she says no and buries her face in my side. The police then tell me that it is better that she is in another room. I saw one of Beth's cheer coaches bring her son in soon after we got there and mention that she may still be there to watch her. The doctor, still visibly angry, goes to check, and she is so Beth goes to sit with her in the waiting room. The police explain that they have a report of possible child abuse. The doctor explains that this was a simple misunderstanding. He just examined my daughter and there is no abuse. I now realize that it is the receptionist that he is angry with. She makes an excuse and leaves the room. He says that he thinks he has to let her go. He says this is the second incident in 2 weeks. He says that her bad judgment got his practice, and the entire executive part closed for 4 hours last week and his neighbors now hate him. The police are apologetic, but say they need to do a full investigation, and ask if I can come to the station. A friend comes to pick up my daughter who is freaking out at this point. We get to the station, they allow me to drive there myself, and my uncle who is a lawyer meets me there. The police are apologetic and say they already know what happened but a full investigation and report need to be done. They say it is a minimum of 3 to 5 days, maybe longer. I call my wife who goes ballistic. The county attorney says that they normally seek restraining orders in these cases, but if I sign an agreement to stay away from my daughter until the investigation is closed they would not seek one. My uncle recommends this as the restraining order would be public record. I stay at my brother's for the weekend and schedule an out-of-town trip that I really don't need to make for this week. I can't wait to get home, to see my family and sleep in my own bed, but I'm pretty sure my wife will have me on the couch for a little while. TL/DR, made a bad joke, got investigated for hitting my kid, lost the right to see her. Sitting in a hotel room on a useless business trip. Edit, spelling. Edit 2, update thank you for the gold kind strangers. Wow, this blew up. I wanted to answer some of the questions that you guys had. I want to thank all of you guys for the kind words and support. For those of you saying that I'm an idiot, you are probably right. I will not be sleeping on the couch. My wife got over this fairly quickly and is no longer angry. At least not at me. I'm heading home from Boston tomorrow evening and I think everything should be resolved by then. I will not be taking legal action against the receptionist. She was very young, did not do this out of animosity. I do not know what, if anything, will happen to her job. I'm not pushing for her to lose it. The other story about the receptionist goes like this, as told to me by the doctor. A few weeks ago the lights in the parking lot of the executive park blew, and the landlord had trouble getting them fixed, so he rented temporary light stanchions for the businesses that are open past sundown until they could figure out the problem. These lights apparently ran on gas or diesel. The receptionist came back from lunch one day and smelled something, so she called the state's Department of Environmental Protection to say that she believed that there was a fuel leak. The DEP closed the parking lot for the rest of the day for cleanup. It turned out to be nothing. Whoa, this is weirdly similar to something my own dad did. Once my sister got a mosquito bite on her face that swelled her eye up, and when the chemist asked what happened, my dad, who couldn't even speak the language, decided doing a punching motion to her 8-year-old face while laughing was a good option. The look on the woman's face, turns out laughing iced, so universal laughter almo. Luckily there were no repercussions though. This made me laugh quite a bit. The fact he couldn't speak the language, but still wanted to make bad a joke is brilliant. Dads will never change lol. Who's lol and why do dads want to change them? I have no children, but I felt sick imagining to be in your position. The receptionist definitely overreacted. If anything, she should have talked to the doctor to have his/her opinion and get confirmation. The fact that she didn't makes me think she got involved for the thrill of it. Also, your joke was amusing. Hope it gets sorted out fast and with no repercussion. The joke was amusing because of all the places to make it. It's obvious that it's not what happened. IKR. This is like the extreme version of when a wish goes bad. The receptionist was probably a Redditor. He says that her bad judgment got his practice, and the entire executive park closed for 4 hours last week and his neighbors now hate him. I want to know what happened here. The doctor prescribed weed to somebody, and they were like, man, this doctor is a bomb. So she called the police about a bomb threat. TIFU by using 90s slang in a post-9/11 world. When I was a NID manager, I had a network engineer that went by Jack. He always said, never greet me in an airport. Hi, Jack. Man, that is rough. I can imagine how much that sucks. I see it as a hidden luck that it was at the doctor's office and he could completely say there is no abuse. I imagine if the joke had been made on your way out and they met you at your home, it would have been even worse. This will pass. Keep being an awesome, non-abusive father. Yeah, thank God they didn't see his son with the whip marks on his back. That would have been a problem. Not the jumper cable's dad. Honestly, I'd rather have someone be investigated for abuse than not, because everyone around me was erring on caution when I was growing up in an abusive household. How I miss those stories. Imagine how my dad felt when I had run headfirst straight into the edge of a door and then didn't want to talk to any hospital staff about it. When I was 5, I ran face first into a doorknob and got a terribly obvious black eye. Went to school the next day when a concerned teacher asked if the black eye happened at home. I said yes. Lol. At 5 years old I didn't understand the implications of that question, just the literal answer of it happening at my house from a doorknob. Yup. Same thing happened to a friend of mine. Her front door was right at the bottom of a staircase and she tripped. Didn't help that she went to the hospital with her boyfriend, who is a huge and kind of scary looking guy, but really just a teddy bear of a man. She said the nurses sent him out and spent about 20 minutes interrogating her. Damn, hope this all goes well for you. And don't forget to take your daughter out for an ice cream. The receptionist owes you all an ice cream. She can't afford it. She was fired. I hope it was like the scene in the first episode of The Office where Michael fake fires Pam as a joke. Only in this scenario at the end the doctor is just like, nah, that last part was a joke. You really are fired. Now get the fuck out of here. That sucks, Opus. When I was about 5 we had to write a story about how we would feel if one of our siblings ran away. I said I'd be fine with it because my big brother is annoying, as all big brothers are. However, because he was 9 years older than me, my teacher thought he was abusing me. People are idiots. I have 2 boys. They wrestle. They both like the wrestling, and it is instigated by one, just as much as the other. 2 years ago, when they were 8 and 11 years old, the younger one had the yearly sexual abuse course in which they ask something along the lines of, has anyone ever touched you in a way that makes your tummy hurt? And my son raised his hand to say, when he and his brother wrestle and his brother sits on him, it makes his tummy feel funny. He was literally talking about his brother sitting on top of his stomach when they play wrestle. CPS showed up first at my older son's school and pulled him out of class to question him, then at our house that afternoon. There was a whole investigation. Receptionist doesn't speak to anyone else and just immediately calls the cops/CPS. Not the office manager, a nurse, or the doctor. Yeah, don't expect her to be there next time you visit. Not only was that an overreaction to an obvious joke, but she didn't speak to the professional examiner that was actively examining her first. Honestly, I'm not sure how she kept her job for as long as she did. Almost sounds like it was on purpose. Yeah, this is really unusual. I'm a nurse, and while I don't work with kids, I do know that if there is a situation of suspected abuse, elder abuse, relationship abuse, etc., that kind of information spreads like wildfire on the medical side. Everyone knows the situation, so that they can respond and act appropriately if necessary. Definitely seemed strange. I couldn't imagine her being at that job much longer. Similar thing happened with my mom one time, but with less consequences. We were in a grocery store when I was about 7 or 8, and I told her I was hungry and asked if we could get Burger King across the street. She replied, as she always did, "What day is it? Tuesday? No, you don't get to eat on Tuesdays." I pretended to be super sad like I always did, and she would order me an icy or something, and it was all well and good. It was a running joke we had. Single mom and all that, we had a unique relationship. Well, this particular day, some middle-aged woman behind us in line flipped her shit and got on her soapbox about how she was a defender of children everywhere blah blah blah, and called the cops. She made a huge scene in the grocery store and the manager got involved and everything. Long story short, my mom works for the police department, and one or two of the officers who lived near us would watch me from time to time, while my mom worked her other jobs. One of the female officers was the person who responded to the call and immediately busted up laughing when she saw it was us. The lady continued to create a scene for about 5 minutes before storming out, leaving her cart of groceries in the line where she stood. It was a good joke though. Pretty sure the receptionist should have written this. TIFU by almost tearing a family apart over a joke. Oh, I doubt that. This is second time in 2 weeks she did this. This kind of people hardly accept their own mistakes. She is probably blaming it on everyone but herself. Yep, more likely than a TIFU post she'd be crafting a legal advice post. My boss fired me for reporting child abuse to the police. What do I do? ? 1.